Welcome to Join the Conversation at the Tower of David Museum. I'm Caroline Shapiro, Director of International Public Relations, and I am delighted that you are with us today. I can see that we have here friends from the USA, from Canada, the UK, Germany, and the Netherlands, and of course from Israel as well. And those of you from abroad might find it funny to think that our Israeli friends who have joined us now from literally just down the road will not have visited the Tower of David in months either. So this is completely new to all of us this evening. I said I was delighted, but the truth is we are thrilled to have this gathering of friends from near and from afar, and thankful that Zoom is giving us this opportunity to tell you about what's going on at the Tower of David Museum. We want you to feel involved, so please write your questions and remarks in chat, and we'll try and answer all of them at the end of the presentation. Over the next hour, please turn your Zoom settings to speaker view, and we would be grateful if you would keep your microphones on mute. Just a couple of months ago, the Tower of David Museum announced its $40 million renewal and conservation project. The project, both innovative and ambitious, will completely renew the heritage site and the museum that we all know as the Tower of David. We will be taking you behind the scenes of the Renewal and Conservation Project over the next few weeks to show you the many faces of this enormous project. We have conversations lined up with the key people who will be creating this museum for the 21st century: archaeologists, architects, artists, designers, historians and curators, and we hope that you will join in these conversations. Today, our very first conversation, we're going to take a look at the big picture and understand the strategic geographic position of the Tower of David with regards to the layout of Jerusalem, and understand better why the citadel has been so integral to the development of the city to close for 3,000 years. We are going to do this with the help of Dr. Itay Gat, who has mastered the art of presenting Jerusalem using the latest in virtual tools. The Tower of David is the iconic symbol of Jerusalem, and standing at the Jaffa Gate, it is the natural gateway to the old city. In fact, the project has spurred a revival of the historical city centre, which will result in the creation of a new national park and new municipal services in the area. In these challenging times, it is a very great privilege that we can be so involved in such an exciting project for the future. I am delighted to introduce you to the woman who is leading the project, Director and Chief Curator of the Tower of David Museum, Eilat Lieber. Eilat, over to you.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, Caroline, and good evening from Jerusalem, and thank you for joining us. We know that in a normal year, many of you would have visited us, friends, as Caroline said, from USA, Canada, UK, Germany, Holland, and Israel. But we're really pleased that you can join us and be with us in this series of intimate meetings. And we hope to be able to reintroduce the museum to you. As you know, the Tower of David is one of the leading Israeli museums as a national heritage site. And I've been the director and the chief curator in the past 8 years, and the museum grown and continue to tell the full story of the rich history of Jerusalem. But seeing it also became actually cultural hub and a platform for contemporary art and design, cultural activities, festivals, and music. Our incredible, amazing night spectacular three-dimensional audiovisual night show is one of the most popular shows in Israel and is seen by millions of visitors from all over the world. Even our special needs programming for kids and adults was so successful and won a national awards, and we are really proud about it. In the past 8 years, the number of visitors to the museum increased by more than 40%. In 2019, for example, we had over 500,000 visitors to the museum from all over the world, and half of them are actually tourists and half of them are Israelis, and that's why the museum is self-reliant with more than 82% of self-income. Or so it was till last year. Of course, the past year was challenging for us. We've been playing it week by week. Sometimes the regulation allow us to open, sometimes not. Only 10% of our staff is working and the rest are at home. Nonetheless, we managed to open a new exhibition and to offer guided tours and online lectures and activities. But the museum is 30 years old and must be renewed. What was cutting edge is no longer. And from just renewing the infrastructure, we are now totally overruling the entire museum. Not only we make the citadel accessible, a must for a museum and heritage site in the 21st century. And we are so exciting, and we're so proud to be able to introduce the project to you. And actually, it's close then to 50 years since such a serious project took place here. So the time has come actually for the renovation and conservation project of the Tower of David Museum.
So we just want to be able to show you some of the people that are involved in this project and for you to have a little taste of what's coming our way. So just bear with me one moment.
Tower of David Museum, located in the ancient, beautiful citadel of the city, tells the full story of Jerusalem from the very beginning till modern time. The conservation and renovation project of the Tower of David Museum is going to engage the young generation with the story of Jerusalem through modern technology, stories, and archaeology. And this is going to be the real gateway to Jerusalem.
So we are standing in front of the new future Migdal David Plaza. This is where the new entrance building is going to be built. It's going to be excavated, around 1,000 square meters of excavated building, which will be sort of a fold of the landscaping, a building that is trying not to be seen, trying to disappear in order to leave the impact of the architectural monument of the existing building.
The curatorial challenge of the new exhibition is to tell the story of Jerusalem, an historical story that spreads over almost 4,000 years. How do you tell the story of the eternal city of Jerusalem? What do you choose to emphasize?
For us to design the exhibition of the historic building of the Tower of David is really unique. The exhibition itself is contemporary, updated, state-of-the-art, very technological. And this is the dialogue between something which is very traditional, old and historic, and the exhibition itself, which is very up-to-date and contemporary.
Here we have epic battles, historical events, conspiracies. All the archaeology of Jerusalem is right here, from the Judæan kingdom until the British Mandate and modern times. And the renovation that is taking place right now here in the citadel enable us, the archaeologists, to reveal all this glory of Jerusalem. For example, I'm standing in a magnificent hall that was built probably by the Crusader or the Ayyubid approximately 1,000 years ago. We never saw it like that. During the renovation, for the first time, we have a wonderful glimpse about the impact and the power of this hall. Suddenly, we find a pier. We open it and we enter. And under the Crusader Hall, we find a segment of the Hasmonean fortification, the 2nd century BC. It's wonderful. It's amazing. It's a piece of history of Jerusalem, and everything is right here in the Tower of David.
But to really understand the importance and the significance of the Tower of David Museum, the iconic symbol of the city, we must go back in time. And here I'm going to ask my dear friend, Dr. Itay Gat, to take us on a journey.
Thank you, Eilat.
I'd like to just introduce Dr. Itay Gat. Itay Gat is the former vice president of MobileEye, the well-known Israeli startup that was acquired by Intel for over $15 billion. Itay is a friend of the Tower of David and is taking his well-deserved time off by returning to his first love, the city of Jerusalem. He is using his technological skills to devise innovative ways of presenting the history and the geopolitics of the city virtually. And we are honored that he is sharing some of his insights with us. Itay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Caroline. So, let me just, okay. So, in order to understand where it all began, we must start with the big picture. From high above in space, you can see that the land of Israel is the meeting place of Europe, Asia, and Africa. On our way down, we see the Mediterranean on our left, over here, the Dead Sea to our right. In order, by the way, to emphasize the cursor, it will be accompanied in my presentation by a red dot for better clarity. On top of the central mountain ridge of Israel, the Judean mountain, you will find Jerusalem. Today, it is the largest city in Israel, both in terms of population and of municipal area. Looking carefully at the city, you will see a black rectangular area here. This is the old city of Jerusalem, less than 1% of the city today. Still, the story of Jerusalem for most of the recent 4,000 years was contained within this area of only 1 square kilometer. So let us get a closer look at this place. Removing the current city from our view and concentrating on the historical part of Jerusalem, we see a city whose landscape consists of 2 hills, the western and the eastern. The Canaanites built their city on the eastern hill over here 4,000 years ago. They did that because they have a constant source of water marked here with a blue circle. The riverbeds around that city protect the Canaanite city from 3 sides, and therefore it was logical to extend that city in this direction. I'm following up the hill, and this is exactly what happened in this place 3,000 years ago when King David conquered Jerusalem and made it his capital. This is also the place where King Solomon built the first temple of Judean kingdom on what is now Temple Mount here. This sacred place needed extra protection, and this is where the Western Hill came into play. The Western Hill is much higher, and the mountaintop is flatter, as you can see here, optimal for settlement and for improved security. As you can see, the hill is protected by a deep riverbed over here, and a shallow one that you'll see in a minute over here. At the crossing point between those riverbeds, you will find the citadel here. Look at the strategic location of this spot. From here, you can look over the entire ancient city. And fortification built here in the place that is known today as the Tower of David Museum would tower above any enemy attempting to capture Jerusalem. By the way, from this angle, you can also see how Jerusalem dominates the entire mountain all the way to the Dead Sea that you can see not so far ahead in the distance. So now that you are familiar with the topography of the area, you will be able to appreciate the strategic advantage that you will of the Tower of David through the generation. We are now hovering 20 meters above the Tower of David. Please notice the red marker over the Tower of David here. This will be our sign from now on. See below us Jaffa Gate, which was mentioned before. It is the main entrance to the old city. You can easily see that whoever controlled the tower also overlooked the gate and can determine who will enter the city and who will stay out. We are now circling around the Tower of David and are able to see the modern neighborhood of Jerusalem built from the 19th century and on. Here is the famous King David Hotel. Behind it, here, you're able to see the YMCA Tower. This 3D view of Jerusalem is provided by an Israeli company called Simplex Mapping. The first stage that was carried out in order to produce this map relies on aerial photography using high-resolution camera. The next stage in this innovative technique involved computing a depth map from these images using sophisticated state-of-the-art technology. This map is amazingly accurate, as the position accuracy of every object in Jerusalem is merely 2 to 3 centimeters. The final stage in preparing this view involves placing the images that were recorded before on top of the depth map so that we may see Jerusalem from the air, just as if we were floating above it in a transparent aircraft. Have a look at the towers of the Christian quarter of Jerusalem, which is directly in front of you. It is possible to see every fine detail in them. So now I'm going to stop the rotation and show you a few places of interest in this magnificent city, and starting, of course, with, a place nearby, which is the Holy Sepulchre over here with its 2 domes, and you see how close they are to the Tower of David. The technology that Simplex developed allows not only the review of buildings and streets, but also to see the landscape around Jerusalem. And what you see here at the background is the Hebrew University on Mount Scopus. And over here, you see Mount of Olives, and underneath, the golden Dome of the Rock glitters on Temple Mount. If we get a little bit closer, we will be able to see here also the Western Wall. Now it comes into focus, known as the Kotel. Getting back towards the Tower of David, show you how close we are to all of these historical sites. So you can see that the Tower of David is standing in a very strategic location, and it is clear that the army that controlled this place here actually controls the entire old city. See how close everything is. and see all the sites that are sacred to so many people around the world, Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Try to imagine the armies who stood here by the walls of Jerusalem during the course of history. The Assyrians in the 8th century BC, the Babylonians in the 6th century BC, the Greek in the 2nd century BC, Romans in the 1st century, and the Crusaders in the 11th century. Looking down at the Tower of David, we can see what archaeologist Amit Re'em was referring to. As you may recall, Amit explained how the Tower of David Museum does not only present the history of Jerusalem, within its walls, you can actually feel and touch the history of the city. Let's look at a few examples. We'll start with the protective layers of the Tower of David. Here, you see the moat that goes all around the fortress. The moat was built here during the Crusaders' time, around 900 years ago. The top of the tower that I'm currently pointing at was built 200 years later by the Muslims in the 14th century. The gate tower that you'll see in a second over here was added 500 years ago in the 16th century. So now let's continue and take you now to the inner courtyard of the citadel, where you're able to see here this round shape, which is the base of a Muslim tower from the 8th century. Just adjacent to that here, you see a wall that was erected here 2,200 years ago during the period of the Second Temple. And if I'll continue to move my view a little bit here, you will be able to see one of the symbols of Jerusalem, the minaret, which serves the muezzin, calling the people to come and pray, that was erected here in the beginning of the 17th century. Interesting to say that since the 19th century, this minaret is one of the best known symbols of Jerusalem. In order to have a closer look at the next fascinating building inside the Tower of David, I suggest that we'll take a seat just here. So we are now sitting in the chairs placed here for viewing the incredible night spectacular projected on the walls of the museum in the evenings. From this vantage point, we can look at one of the wonders of ancient Jerusalem. Here, King Herod built this tower 2,000 years ago. Looking closely at the stones, you see the famous marginal draft carving that is also in evidence on the stones of the western wall, the Kotel. The size of the stones that kept this tower standing for the last 2,000 years is impressive. Not the entire tower survived the perils of time. Roughly half of the Herodian tower is still there, but even this half that you see here is enough to impress us with the building capabilities of King Herod. We should remember, however, that King Herod was not only the builder of Jerusalem, he was also a notoriously cruel king. His cruelty was inflicted in many cases on the people closest to him. For example, he ordered the execution of his wife Miriam as he suspected her of plotting against him, and then mourned her for more than a year. A legend claimed that Herod had Miriam's body immersed in honey for 7 years. Keep this story of King Herod and the honey in mind as we fast forward 2,000 years to something that was discovered within the crevice that you see here in the tower. Let me show you a short video of events that took place here in the fortress just a year and a half ago. At that time, visitors to the museum were complaining about bee stings, especially when climbing the Herodian tower. It turned out that in this tower, built to keep enemies out of the city 2,000 years ago, there was a hole. It was created by a bombshell from the 1948 war during the battles over Jerusalem. Museum staff discovered that the crevice was the source of bees swarming the tower. A volunteer organization called Bee Red Cross was called to help remove the bees. You can see them here putting on protective gear and preparing for the descent. They had to rappel from the Herodian Tower in order to get to the beehive to have a look inside. Here is Gal rappelling down to the hall. You can see the Herodian Tower as was visible for us from the seats. Here is what they found within the crevice: a complete beehive and a honeycomb. The beehive consisted of more than 25,000 bees. What we can see now is the careful removal of the beehive in order to relocate it safely to another location where the bees will continue to thrive. So, with this story, I'll end the short review of the Tower of David Museum, the place where honey found in the 21st century reminds us of King Herod, who built this magnificent tower, and where all of the history of Jerusalem is before our eyes and under our feet. Thank you.
Thank you, Itay. You have managed to take us into 3,000 years into the past in just a few minutes. So now, laying on this rich history of the site, let's actually go to the present and the future of the museum and the whole area. As you just saw, the Tower of David is more than archaeology and history. It's the whole ecological system of the area. And of course, it's the whole urbanic area around us. So thank you, Itay. This is the area of Jaffa Gate Square. You have to know that Jaffa Gate is the main entrance to the old city of Jerusalem. It's the historic gate to the four quarters of the old city, of course, and the citadel located right here in between the old city of Jerusalem and the modern city. Here you can see the area of our new entrance pavilion to the museum. We are going to change the flow, the circulation of the museum. In the past, visitors actually could enter the museum from the east, from the monumental gate, the original gate from the Ottoman period, from the 16th century. It makes sense because the citadel was built when the city was only the own city inside the city walls. But now, after more than 400 years, the city is in the west. Most of the people, pilgrims, tourists, Israelis are coming to the old city from the west. That's why we are going to change the circulation during the day visits. And we are going to have, as I said, a new entrance pavilion right in front of Jaffa Gate Square. This is our vision. The Tower of David is going to be the real gateway to Jerusalem. Here you can see the area where we are going to have our new entrance pavilion. This used to be kind of a parking lot or a backyard of the museum. And now this is going to be a new square, public square for visitors, not just for our visitors, but for all the visitors to the city, to the Ramparts Walk area, to the old city. This is going to be a nice new square with shade. with a new museum cafe and museum shop. And of course, you will see it later with a new gallery for contemporary art, because the Tower of David Museum not just tells the story of the history of Jerusalem, it tells the story of the city, as I said, a rich story about culture, food, fashion, art, design, architecture, and much more. Caroline?
Yes.
Can you take us to the aerial picture?
Absolutely. One moment.
Actually, we are really lucky because our plans fits also the vision of the municipality of Jerusalem and also government players, because the whole area of the Jaffa Gate Square is going to change. Our project of the renovation of the museum is going to impact the whole area and change the whole entrance to the old city. Right here, you can see the excavation site of our new building. You can see that we are actually working every day with the Israel Antiquities Authority. As you know, every stone in Jerusalem tells a story, and this is the Israeli law. So here you can see part of an ancient wall that we actually had to discover, check very well, document, and we were lucky that we could remove it actually to continue digging to the foundation of the building. Of course, this is complicated because we want to keep the beauty of the past, the beauty of the ancient citadel, and not hurt the remains. So everything is done by hand and very, very careful. Are we going inside the citadel or outside?
We're going to go inside.
Okay, so let's go inside the citadel. As you know, this citadel is the fortification of the city and represent all the layers from history. As you heard from Itay, some of it is from Herod's time and some of it is medieval time or Ottoman period. Anyway, this citadel was never meant to be a museum. And during the 80s, after 67 war, archaeologists dug here and discovered the remains from different layers, as I said. But now, after about 50 years, we actually must renew the infrastructure. And for that, we had, of course, to work with the archaeologists to remove gently the remains and hide all the cables that you won't be able to see it in the future. But still, we will be able to update the museum with modern technology. As Itay actually explained, you could see that he used technology, and it's very important for us to be able to use modern technology. I must share a personal story with you. When I was appointed to this position 8 years ago, I was very excited. For me, it was to close the circle and come back to the museum that I worked while I was a student. So I came to my family, and as I said, I was excited. And then my son told me, I can't believe you are going to work in this boring museum. And I said, do you think the Tower of David is a boring museum? Why? And he said, Mom, history is boring. He actually held his thick book. And I knew that this is going to be a challenge. And our challenge is to engage the young generation with the story of Jerusalem by using technology, but not only technology, because for the first time, the Tower of David Museum is going to show a real and new collection of artifacts and archaeology together with modern technology. And for the first time, the Tower of David Museum is going to have a modern art gallery for artists from all over the world and designers, and to show how Jerusalem actually is a great inspiration for artists and designers from all over the world. Here you can see the courtyard of the museum. As I said, we work with a huge team of the best architects, designers, and advisors in Israel. Here you can see the beauty of the original spaces of the museum. You can see the cables, and you can see that we are doing huge efforts to keep the authenticity of the spaces on the stone. We are not allowed to touch the stone, not the seal, only the floor and the space between the stone. And this is unique. This is a tailor-made project. Every centimeter here is well preserved with the archaeologists. And in the future, as I say, you won't be able to see anything, only the beauty of the past. This is our mission and challenge. This is the area of our new entrance pavilion. We are still working. Here you can see the view of the building. It's a very modest building. You will hear a lot about it in our upcoming meetings from the architects. So I just will say that it is going to be very modest. This is the upper level of the ticketing building and information. As I said, we're going to have a new museum cafe. This square is the public area. It's open for everybody. And you can see the nice amphitheater for groups, for tourists to rest before the entrance to the museum. This is the ticketing area and information. And the lower level is going to be our new art gallery. And this is going to be open soon, hope in spring 22. And I hope till then, you all will be able to visit Jerusalem again. Accessibility is also one of our important goals of the project. We would like to improve accessibility. As you know, the Citadel is a medieval building with thousands of stairs and many levels. And we are going to have new glass elevator to serve the visitors and make it easier. Here you can see a floating glass elevator, not touching archaeology at all. This is the previous entrance to the museum. Now it's going to be our new exit to the east, to the old city, and the perfect place for a museum shop. Here you can see the whole area, and our next stage after the museum and entrance pavilion is a new area for educational center. Here you can see under Jaffa Gate Square, kind of a black hole, a very neglected area, archaeological area that we found very exciting and useful for us. And together with the municipality and government, we are going to renew this area to open a new archaeological garden together with a very modern educational center for the Tower of David Museum. As you can see, together with the planners, we are again planning a new area for actually people from all over the world will be able to enjoy the garden, and for the museum, it's going to be a great opportunity to develop the educational center. So as I said, it's going to impact the whole area to change Jaffa Gate Square to welcome the visitors to Jerusalem. And we hope to be here, update and ready to preserve the citadel and keep the beauty of the past. And of course, update the exhibition and be here ready for our upcoming visitors and also, of course, for you.
Thank you. We talked about the Renewal project, and and we would now love to hear any questions. Let's see what if we've got some questions that have already come in. I'm just looking. Yes, Eilat, I think this question is for you. Has the corona pandemic influenced your design plans for the new museum?
Actually, it was discussed because, as you know, we wanted to be able to use technology and to offer interactive exhibition and exhibits. We found many solutions. So we hope that the coronavirus is not going to interrupt our plans. And we hope that by then the world will recover and the scientists will find a good solution. But of course, we are going to consider every single detail about it.
Itay, the technology that you used was fantastic at bringing the old city to life. Is it available for everyone?
Yeah, actually, the tool that I've been showing is free to use for everybody, and I think it's a great present that was provided from that company. Of course, they have various other features that we are now looking into, and these features can allow us to put both the future of planning on such a map and also the past in the same virtual reality. And maybe in the future, we will be able to show you that as well. But in the meantime, showing just modern Jerusalem is open for everybody who want to remember how this lovely city looks like, even though he can't travel here by himself.
Thank you. Fantastic. We've got a question here from Joel James. The museum has been a great place to do special events, Eilat, that we know. We definitely agree with you. Eilat, how do the current plans affect future special events on the site?
We believe that there's no place like the Tower of David for special events, and of course, nothing will change here, and the citadel will be well preserved and ready for special events in the future.
So we know that we wanted to keep it into a fairly small gathering in order that people could have questions. So please feel free to write chat us a question if you have one. Eilat, perhaps you'd like to tell us a little bit more who's backing all the new renewal and conservation plan.
More about the museum?
No, who's funding and backing, because we're not just standing alone.
Yes, of course. As you know, the Clore Israel Foundation supported the Tower of David Museum project during the 80s and continue to support the museum from the opening in 89 till now. And Also, now the Chlor-Israel Foundation actually is the main support of the project, but not only, also the Jerusalem municipality, the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Jerusalem Affairs. And we hope that soon we will be able also to actually pronounce more more supportive to the museum, more donors soon, because we are now negotiating with some of them.
I know that you've traveled the world. Luckily, it was before 2020, looking for inspiration and looking for different ways of portraying the history of Jerusalem. Would you like to tell us a little bit about where you had some inspiration from?
Yes, of course. First of all, as you know, the Citadel is a heritage building, and it's a different challenge. It's not a white cube. And together with being the Museum of the History, we wanted to be able to show art and design. So I found many inspiration in places like Spain, for example, the Museum of Madrid, and of course south of Spain, because they also transformed heritage buildings into modern museums. Of course, Jerusalem is not just the city, but many city museums are also inspiring, like the Museum of Manhattan, or the Museum of Amsterdam, for example. A rich story of a city, communities, people, culture. And we, in the past 8 years, we added many exhibitions about the deep layers of the city. For example, our current exhibition is a musical exhibition, and it gives another experience and layer, and it brings more visitors to the museum. And if we can actually attract them with music and tell them about the history while they're listening to Israeli popular music, this is our actually great achievement.
We have another question. With the location of the entrance moving to the west, so we're changing it around, how will that affect vehicle traffic at the Jaffa Gate? And how exactly will pedestrian entrance area in relation to the active street?
So Caroline, if you can go back to the view from the west, I can show how our new entrance will connect with the archaeological garden under Jaffa Gate Square.
Just so 1 second, and I will do that.
Yes, the Byzantine area. Under Jaffa Gate Square, there's a nice archaeological site with remains from the Roman period. Actually, part of the water system of Jerusalem during King Herod's time. And this area is going to be a new entrance to the city, because visitors will be able to enter the city from the lower level, and not just the museum, the Jaffa Gate area. And this is also connected to the parking lot. So in a way, it's actually I think maybe going to look like the new entrance to the Louvre Museum, if you know the pyramid. So the lower level under the pyramid connected to the train station. It's kind of a commercial area there, but here is going to be archaeological area with a new educational center, but it's going to be open to the public with a nice restaurant, a nice garden. And it's going to change the whole area, because now it's just kind of, as I said, a black hole, neglected and very dirty area, not pleasant at all. So it's a new entrance to the city, because you will be able to walk under the Jaffa Gate Square and go out from the new tunnel that we are digging here under the road.
Itay, if you could also just show us where the Kishle building is situated, and then if you would mind giving us a little update as to the Kishle excavations. Eilat?
The Kishle, yes, the Kishle is an Ottoman building right behind the Tower of David. It's not part of the citadel, but we own this building. We were lucky that the legendary Mayor Teddy Kollek actually added this area to the museum for the future plans. So this is an amazing site, and archaeologists dug here also and found remains from King Herod's palace. As you heard from Itay, the Fatzael Tower, the highest tower in the citadel, is one of the most impressive remains from Herod's palace. But for many years, nobody knew where is the rest of the palace. So everything is hidden inside the Kishle building, and in the future we will be able to open this as a new wing of the museum, but right now this is still in the planning stage.
In fact, if I can give a little plug for our next session in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be meeting the archaeologist Amit Re'em, who dug in the Kishle excavations and found the foundations of King Herod's palace. So that will be our conversation in 2 weeks. So you'll be able to hear more then, Arjun, and thank you for the question.
More questions?
Eilat, you're also the director of the cultural institutions in Jerusalem. How do you feel that everybody is moving with regards to the pandemic? And do you feel that there is cooperation between the cultural institutions?
Actually, we navigate between the very sad situation of part of us, because as you know, I think it's all over the world that cultural institutions cannot be open, and many artists and musicians and dancers are actually in a very sad situation. But on the other hand, we found the way to cooperate and find some new ideas. How can we actually work together? So this year, 21, we are going to work different. And for example, museums like the Tower of David that has a courtyard and open air are going to host concerts and some, you know, dance shows and artists, because they have no place to do it. We're going to open a new festival in the city. We're going to have White Night of Culture in Jerusalem. But first of all, of course, we must, I think, solve the coronavirus situation, and hope, of course, that the numbers will be better, that we can have a better spring and summer.
Well, this brings us to the end of our very first meeting. Thank you so much for being with us. We should tell you that since we started the renewal and the conservation of the citadel, we've so far discovered ancient fortifications, passageways, a secret room, and much more. So in 2 weeks' time, as I said, Amit Re'em, who's the Jerusalem's district archaeologist, who did the excavations for the Kishle, but is now in charge of all the archaeology in Jerusalem, will be speaking to us. He'll be sharing some of the secrets he's found so far. He'll also be able to tell us about the cutting edge technology that is used to time date the citadel, a project that we'll hopefully be doing with the Weizmann Institute. So we'll send you a reminder. If you have friends that you wish to pass on this invitation to, please just pass them on the original invitation that you received from us, and that way they can register too. And we want to say to you, have a great weekend, and Shabbat Shalom, and Eilat, that you have the last word.
You can't answer my question in chat?
You have a quick question? Sure, no problem.
About whether there was universal support for the project.
We can't hear you.
Read the chat question.
There's a question in the chat. Okay. Eilat, how many Arab and Christian residents of Jerusalem are involved in the design project, and does the project have universal support?
Universal support, yes, because actually the Clough Foundation is from England, and as I said, soon we're going to announce more donors from abroad. And of course, we have our great American friends of museums in Israel and in New York. And the Tower of David Museum was always a universal museum. We offered content in 10 different languages, and we also now we're actually connected to our friends all over the world.
There was no controversy?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Was there any controversy? Any controversy involved in the new design project?
Has there been controversy?
The Tower of David actually tells the full story of Jerusalem and the significance of the city to the three religions, and it will stay this way.
Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you again soon, and have a good weekend when you get there, and Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Thank you, Rose Genosar, for arranging the whole webinar. Thank you, Itay Gat, Dr. Itay Gat. And thank you, our good friends from all over the world and from Israel. We miss all of you, and we hope that soon we will be able to meet again here at the Tower of David. Shabbat Shalom, have a nice weekend, and we wish you a good health till we meet again.
It's lovely to see people here. We can see people from London, Jerusalem, as everyone is waving off. Bye-bye.
Bye.